Do you know any stories about how your family first came to the United States and where did they first settle?
And they settled in Charlevoix, Michigan. Yes, my mother was 16 years of age. She came over on the USS Brennan and landed in New York. And then from there, went to Chicago, from Chicago to Charlevoix. Her brother, they took her in and introduced her to the man she was going to marry, which was Martin Savara.
What were the occupations of your parents?
They were farmers. At first, they had sugar beet fields in Charlevoix.
Can you tell me a little bit about your siblings?
My two older sisters were 10 and 13 years older from me, so they helped take care of me. They left home when they were 15 and 16, so I didn't get to know them too well. I had a younger sister that was 3 years younger than myself, but she later died. She contracted polio, and Dr. They didn't know anything about it at that time. I think she was 8 years old when she got it.
How would you describe growing up in the Great Depression?
Well, we were very fortunate. My folks owned a farm, and Mother was very good at planting fruit and vegetables, canning, getting berries, and making jams and jellies. So we were pretty well off. We didn't even mind the Depression.
What was your school life like?
Well, I started school at a very age. I think about 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how to speak English too well. I had to learn. My folks were from the Czechs, and Mother and Dad both spoke Czech at home. Mm-hmm. My sisters were gone. They knew English very well. So I had to learn all over. But I made it. And I had to walk a mile to school also. Grade school, I think you would call it. It was called the Hilton School, where they took all from the 1st to the 8th grade. And then after I got through with the 8th grade, I went into high school into Charlevoix.
I remember you saying that you were into plays in high school.
I was in 2 plays. I can remember one, but the other one has slipped my mind. The one was called Mama's Baby Boy.
So, did you grow up in a bilingual home, or was it Czech at home and then English at school?
Yeah, that sounds more like it, because Mother, she knew a few words in English, and she did learn quite a few later on in life. But when we were growing up, they didn't have time to think of it, you know.
Yeah.
And where we lived, it was in a Czechoslovakian neighborhood, so everybody spoke the same language there. I was 13. Then we moved closer into Charlevoix, and it was a lot different. We had more, everybody spoke English, so that helped a lot.
Do you remember any special rituals or customs or anything that weren't necessarily American but more Czechoslovakian?
The food was a lot different, as you know. We had village cheese. Oh, it was different, but they were very good. We used to have thrashers come to our house, mainly to eat Mother's food, because Katie was such a good cook. They helped the thrashers out a little bit, you know, but we always had too many men.
Do you remember hearing any stories or anything that happened in Czechoslovakia?
Like I say, my sister left at such a young age, but she was one of 4 girls and 2 boys. And of course, the one boy, Frank, he was the oldest. He came to America, and that's how she got over here. Was he had sent her $500 to make the trip. She didn't know a word of English. It was hard getting around. The people were so nice to a child, you know, and they helped her. One man gave her can't remember if it was a banana and orange, and she had never ate one before, so she ate the whole thing. And then later on she found out she was supposed to peel the banana. She had never seen one.
What did your first job end up being, and how did you get it?
My dad had a shoe store. Go to his shoe store, and first thing you knew, I was helping him sell shoes. I would clean his counters up, arrange all his tools, just keep the shop nice and clean. Mm-hmm. And he really appreciated that because he couldn't clean and work at the same time. Because he helped repair the shoes as well. He went to school in Budapest to learn how to make shoes. So I really enjoyed that. I'd rather been in town than helping my mom on the farm. I can remember Mother saying, "Now, John, you took my Annie away. Now I don't have any help." They told us to do something. We went and did it. There was no hen hawing because Mom was up in age when she had me. She couldn't do those things anymore.
Right.
So little by little, there was plenty to do.
What all did you do before you met Great-Grandpa?
Worked for my father. I took tickets at the show, and I worked at Dan Bistro. And then after I graduated, I went to Chicago, and I worked at one of the largest food stores on Lincoln Avenue. That was, and I learned how to do everything. I already had experience from my dad.
How did you and Great-Grandpa meet?
And he would always buy a package of shoelaces. They were a nickel then. I got to talking with him. He left and then came back and bought another package of shoelaces. I often wonder what he did with all those shoelaces he bought. But anyway, I was telling him we were going to have a junior prom. And, well, he says, "Would you like to go?" And I said, "I sure would." So that's how we first met. He also took me to my senior prom. Two other couples that came with us, they didn't have any money. And we went to a place called Beneva Cafe for lunch from the prom, because it was open till 2 o'clock. We all had sandwiches. Nobody had any money, so Irv had to go talk to Minnie, who was the owner. And he says, "Minnie, I'll bring you in some raspberries to pay for all of these." She says, "That's perfectly all right, Irv."
Do you remember a lot of events that happened in between y'all dating and getting married?
Didn't date too much. I never dated him until, now that was probably in the 40s. And then I met him, I went to Chicago, and he went into the service.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I didn't know it, but he was at Great Lakes, Illinois, being interned, and I was working. I didn't know he was there, and he didn't know I was there. So I came home after a year. I had 2 weeks off, and I was going to join another company called Bauer and Black. You had to have a year's residence in Illinois before you could go to work for him. So I came home, and he had 2 weeks leave, and we met and went out several times. At that time, he had asked me to marry him. I wasn't in a marrying mood. After the third time, I broke down. He had a ring. I was in the back helping my dad polish some shoes. So I finally accepted. So then he left and he went to Pensacola, Florida, Air Base. He met me at the station. And he had a room for me at the San Carlos Hotel. We got married, and at the very same day that we got married, his father died. Oh. So back we went again to Michigan. And then we got back to Florida.
Well, what was it like having your husband in the military?
He got his orders. He was supposed to go to Norfolk, Virginia, because that's where they ship most of them out. And so I went back home again. By that time, I had the baby, So he said, "Ann, I'm going to come home and get you." So he did. He drove the car all the way back to Michigan. We had to hurry to get back because he wasn't supposed to leave the post for that long. They offered him a higher rate and everything. No, Irv says, I've missed too many hunting days. I'm going home. So away we went again. I know we stopped in Detroit and Irv bought a gun because he didn't have anything to go hunting in a hunting suit. So he could be ready to go hunting. Irv liked to travel after he'd been in the service, you know. And since then we had 6 restaurants, 6 chocolate shops, 2 motels, 2 shoe stores. Not only that, but we bought homes and fixed them up and sold them. 41 of them. We always took 2 weeks off and went hunting. Then Irv went to Lansing after that. That's where Irv got polio in Lansing. He had to rush back home to a doctor because we went to 2 hospitals in Lansing and they wouldn't take him. And we weren't Catholic. So after we got back home again, to take him to Traverse City to a specialist, they were really, really good. And Irv had several operations. Seemed like he had one every summer. They also had to stop the growth in one leg so the other one could catch up. After we got the fish tank out, we had all kinds of fish in it for him.
Do you remember the assassination of JFK? Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do. I think we all do. The Irv's Cocktail Lounge at that time, and I can remember when that came, everybody was just so sad. Okay, I can't think of anything else.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Listen, I'll think of it after you leave.